the hum of a reactor, the silence of the deep, and the boundless reach beneath the waves. Few achievements stir the soul like the USS Nautilus, the world's first nuclear-powered submarine. Launched in the chill of a January morning in 1954 from the shipyards of Groton, Connecticut, this revolutionary vessel, designated SSN 571, shattered the chains that had bound submarines to diesel engines and battery power for decades. Under the relentless drive of Admiral Hyman George Rickover, the father of the nuclear navy, the Nautilus was more than a warship. It was a beacon of American ingenuity in the atomic age, a machine that could plunge into the ocean's abyss and remain there indefinitely, limited only by the endurance of its crew rather than fuel or air. From its historic signal on the 17th of January 1955, underway on nuclear power, to its triumphant submerged crossing beneath the geographic North Pole on the 3rd of August, 1958, the Nautilus redefined undersea warfare, exploration, and the very possibilities of human endeavor beneath the sea. Decommissioned after a quarter-century of service in 1980, it now rests as a National Historic Landmark at the Submarine Force Library and Museum in Groton, drawing 250,000 visitors each year to marvel at the vessel that turned the oceans into highways without horizons. This pioneering submarine not only marked the dawn of nuclear propulsion but also symbolized the United States' commitment to technological supremacy during the early years of the Cold War, inspiring a fleet of successors that would dominate global naval strategy for generations. Its legacy extends beyond military might, influencing scientific research, environmental monitoring, and even popular culture, where it evokes the spirit of adventure akin to space exploration. To fully grasp the epic saga of the USS Nautilus, we must dive back into the shadows of the Second World War and the dawn of the Cold War, an era when submarine technology teetered on the brink of transformation. The war had showcased the deadly potential of undersea vessels. German U-boats, particularly the advanced Type XXI Electroboot with their streamlined hulls and high-capacity batteries, had terrorized Allied convoys in the Battle of the Atlantic, sinking thousands of tons of shipping and nearly starving Britain into submission. On the Pacific front, American Gato-class and Balao-class submarines like the USS Tang and USS Archerfish had wreaked havoc on Japanese merchant fleets and warships, accounting for over 50% of Japan's maritime losses. These diesel-electric submarines operated on a dual system: diesel engines for surface cruising, which required air intake and produced visible exhaust, and electric motors powered by batteries for submerged operations. However, submerged endurance was severely limited, typically 48 to 72 hours at crawling speeds of 2 to 4 knots before the batteries depleted, forcing a risky surfacing to recharge via diesels or snorkels. Surfacing exposed them to radar, sonar, aircraft patrols, and depth charges, turning every patrol into a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Post-war analyses revealed that while these subs were effective, true underwater dominance required a paradigm shift, a power source that could operate independently of the atmosphere, providing unlimited submerged range and speed without the vulnerabilities of frequent surfacing. The spark for this revolution ignited amid the atomic breakthroughs of the Manhattan Project, where scientists like Enrico Fermi and J. Robert Oppenheimer harnessed nuclear fission to unleash energy from uranium atoms, culminating in the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. In the war's aftermath, as the Iron Curtain descended and the Cold War intensified with the Soviet Union's atomic test in 1949, American naval strategists sought to adapt this nuclear energy for propulsion. Enter Hyman George Rickover, a diminutive yet formidable figure born in 1900 in Mako Mazowiecki, Poland, to Jewish parents who fled pogroms to settle in Chicago. Rickover, who Americanized his name from Chaim Gedalia Reichauer, graduated second in his class from the United States Naval Academy in 1922, served aboard the destroyer USS La Valette and submarine S-48, and earned a master's in electrical engineering from Columbia University in 1929. His wartime experience as head of the Bureau of Ships' electrical section honed his expertise in machinery. But it was his assignment in 1946 to the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, a key site in the Manhattan Project, that transformed him. Tasked with exploring naval applications of nuclear power, Rickover became convinced that a compact reactor could revolutionize submarines, allowing them to remain submerged for months, evading detection and striking from the depths. Rickover's path was fraught with obstacles: bureaucratic resistance from traditionalist admirals who favored battleships over subs, budget constraints in a post-war demobilization era, and technical hurdles in miniaturizing reactors safe for confined spaces. Undeterred, he lobbied Congress, cultivated allies like Congressman Carl Vinson, and in 1948 established the Naval Reactors Branch, a unique organization reporting dually to the Navy and the Atomic Energy Commission, AEC. This structure ensured scientific independence while maintaining military oversight. Rickover handpicked a team of elite engineers, including Theodore Rockwell and Philip Ross, and demanded excellence without compromise. His infamous interviews were legendary. Candidates faced hours of grilling in a windowless office, with Rickover probing not just technical knowledge but character. One apocryphal tale has him asking an applicant to do something to make me mad. The man overturned a chair, passing the test for boldness. Another story recounts Rickover rejecting a top graduate for admitting he always did his best, retorting, "Why not?" Such rigor built a culture of perfectionism that defined the nuclear navy. By 1949, work began on a land-based prototype reactor at the National Reactor Testing Station in Arco, Idaho, a desolate desert site chosen for safety. Designated Mark I or S-1W submarine, first generation, Westinghouse, this prototype used pressurized water as both coolant and moderator, circulating through the reactor core to absorb heat from fission, then transferring it to a secondary loop to generate steam for turbines, all without radioactive contamination. Westinghouse Electric Corporation, under contract at the Bettis Atomic Power Laboratory near Pittsburgh, refined the design, opting for pressurized water over riskier sodium-cooled or gas alternatives for its inherent safety. Water's high heat capacity and non-flammability prevented meltdowns. The core featured uranium-235 enriched to 93%, clad in zirconium alloy to resist corrosion, shielding layers of lead, steel, polyethylene, and water tanks minimized radiation, with rigorous testing simulating submarine conditions. The prototype achieved criticality, a self-sustaining chain reaction, on the 30th of March, 1953, and full power on the 25th of June, proving the concept viable after years of setbacks like material failures and leaks. Parallel to reactor development, conceptual designs for the submarine itself advanced under Navy Project SCB-64. Congress authorized construction on the 2nd of August, 1951, amid the Korean War's escalation, allocating $30 million initially. On the 12th of December, 1951, the Navy announced the name Nautilus, a nod to Jules Verne's visionary novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea from 1870, where Captain Nemo's electric-powered sub explored oceanic wonders. The hull number, SSN 571, signified its status as the first nuclear attack submarine. The keel-laying ceremony on the 14th of June, 1952, at the Electric Boat Division of General Dynamics in Groton, Connecticut, was presided over by President Harry S. Truman, who wielded a welder to affix the first plate, declaring it a new era in naval warfare. Electric Boat, founded in 1899 by financier Isaac Rice and engineer John Philip Holland, had a legacy of innovation. Having built the USS Holland, SS-1, America's first commissioned submarine in 1900, construction was a symphony of precision engineering and industrial might, employing thousands of welders, electricians, and machinists in vast dry docks along the Thames River, costing $55 million, over $600 million in today's dollars. The Nautilus incorporated hydrodynamic advancements from captured German-type XXI U-boats, featuring a teardrop-shaped hull for minimal drag, a single 5-bladed propeller for efficiency, and bow-mounted diving planes relocated to the sail, conning tower, for improved maneuverability at speed. Overall length was 319 feet 7 inches, with a beam of 27 feet 8 inches and a draft of 26 feet. Displacement reached 3,533 long tons surfaced and 4,092 long tons submerged, with a pressure hull of HY80 high-yield steel, 11/16 inches thick in critical areas, rated for a test depth of 700 feet, operational depth classified, but estimated at 575 feet. The hull's rounded bow housed 6 21-inch torpedo tubes, while the stern featured countermeasure launchers. At the heart was the S-2W reactor, initially STR, for submarine thermal reactor, producing 13,400 shaft horsepower via 2-geared steam turbines driving twin shafts. The uranium fuel, weighing just 100 pounds per core, could propel the sub for 62,000 nautical miles at 20 knots before refueling, equivalent to circumnavigating the globe 3 times. Auxiliary diesels provided emergency power, but the nuclear plant's reliability rendered them obsolete. Crew accommodations, though cramped, were luxurious compared to diesel subs. 105 men, 11 officers, 94 enlisted, later 13 and 92, enjoyed air-conditioned berths, a galley with fresh-baked bread, ice cream machines, and even a jukebox in the mess for morale. Life support systems scrubbed carbon dioxide with monoethanolamine absorbers, generated oxygen via electrolysis, and distilled seawater for drinking. Armament focused on offense, 26 torpedoes, including acoustic homing Mark 35 and wire-guided Mark 37 models, though early patrols emphasized propulsion testing over combat drills. The launch on the 21st of January, 1954, drew 20,000 spectators in freezing weather. First Lady Mamie Eisenhower, sponsor, smashed a bottle of champagne against the bow as the Nautilus slid sideways into the Thames, a tradition for submarines to simulate diving. Rickover, aboard for the occasion, scrutinized every detail, his presence ensuring no corners were cut. Builders' trials followed, testing hull integrity and systems dockside. Commissioning on the 30th of September, 1954, at Naval Submarine Base New London, placed the Nautilus under Commander Eugene Parks Wilkinson, a 1938 Naval Academy graduate who had commanded the diesel sub USS Cayman in the Pacific, earning a Silver Star for sinking Japanese ships. Wilkinson's leadership emphasized safety and precision. He instituted Rickover's protocols, training the crew in reactor operations at Idaho's prototype. Initial sea trials revealed teething issues, vibrations from turbine gearing, steam leaks in piping, and minor radiation shielding adjustments. On the 17th of January, 1955, after resolving a gearbox fault, Wilkinson ordered mooring lines cast off. As the Nautilus departed Groton with tug assistance, a signalman flashed the historic message via blinker light. Underway on nuclear power. News helicopters buzzed overhead. Reporters on chase boats scribbled notes, and Rickover observed from the sail, his cap pulled low. This moment, broadcast nationwide, symbolized America's atomic prowess, countering Soviet advances like the 1953 hydrogen bomb test. The Nautilus achieved 23 knots submerged, faster than most surface warships, and could cruise indefinitely at 20 knots, limited only by food stores and crew fatigue. Shakedown cruises commenced on the 10th of May, 1955, with a record-setting run from New London to San Juan, Puerto Rico, 1,381 nautical miles, submerged in 89.8 hours, averaging 15.4 knots. This shattered previous endurance marks, proving nuclear subs could outrun and outlast diesel counterparts. Crew testimonials highlighted the difference: no diesel stench, no battery rationing, just steady hum and clean air. Electrician's mate Robert McLaren recalled, "It felt like science fiction. endless power, like sailing on a star. The voyage tested sonar, periscopes, and life support. The reactor's stability allowed precise depth control without speed loss. Returning to fanfare, the Nautilus influenced naval doctrine, rendering World War II ASW anti-submarine warfare tactics, like forcing subs to surface, ineffective against true submarines. Throughout 1955 and 1956, operations expanded along the Atlantic seaboard. In hunter-killer drills off Rhode Island, the Nautilus evaded destroyer screens for days, simulating attacks on carrier groups. It hosted congressional delegations in March 1955, diving overnight to demonstrate capabilities, with lawmakers emerging impressed by the quiet and comfort. Torpedo exercises near Bermuda refined high-speed firing, addressing wake turbulence from the propeller. On the 4th of February, 1957, the odometer hit 60,000 nautical miles, echoing Verne's title, celebrated with a cake shaped like the sub in the wardroom. That spring, the first refueling at Electric Boat replaced the Corps in weeks, not years, extending service life. Crew rotations maintained expertise. Rickover's nuclear power school at Mare Island, and later Windsor, Connecticut, trained successors. The Pacific Theater called in 1957, transiting the Panama Canal, a tight squeeze requiring precise piloting. The Nautilus joined Third Fleet exercises off San Diego, showcasing global deployability. In August, it conducted its inaugural Arctic foray under Operation Sunshine preliminary tests, submerging 1,200 nautical miles under the pack ice, mapping undersea ridges, and collecting hydrographic data on ice keels, currents, and salinity. This intel informed future polar ops, highlighting challenges like magnetic deviation near the poles. NATO maneuvers off Norway in September demonstrated interoperability, with port visits to Rotterdam, Southampton, and Cherbourg fostering alliances. British Admiral Lord Mountbatten toured the reactor compartment, remarking, "This changes the naval balance forever." Returning to New London on the 28th of October, 1957, the crew prepared for the ultimate test. Operation Sunshine, the clandestine submerged transit under the North Pole, was authorized by President Dwight David Eisenhower in early 1958 as a psychological counterpunch to the Soviet Union's Sputnik 1 launch on the 4th of October, 1957, which had ignited space race fears. Eisenhower, a World War II hero, saw the polar crossing as a demonstration of American technological edge in undersea domains. Command shifted to Captain William Robert Anderson, a 1942 Naval Academy alumnus from Bakerville, Tennessee. Known for his poise under pressure from diesel subcommands, Anderson assumed duty in 1957, overseeing upgrades like reinforced hull plating for ice impacts. The Nautilus departed Groton on the 25th of April, 1958, for the West Coast via the Panama Canal, with stops at San Diego for torpedo loads, San Francisco for Liberty, and Seattle for final provisioning. Key enhancements included the North American Aviation N6, a one inertial navigation system, INS, tested on the USS Compass Island, which used gyroscopes and accelerometers to track position without external references, crucial where magnetic compasses failed above 85 degrees north. A Sperry Mark 19 gyro compass provided backup, and upward beaming sonar mapped ice overhead. Dr. Waldo K. Lyon, a physicist from the Naval Electronics Laboratory and founder of the Arctic Submarine Laboratory, joined as civilian ice expert, bringing decades of polar research. The first attempt launched from Pearl Harbor on the 9th of June, entering the Chukchi Sea on the 19th. Shallow ice keels, downward protrusions up to 60 feet, scraped the sail in the Bering Strait's 160-foot depths, forcing retreat. Anderson surfaced in open water, reporting to Washington before docking at Pearl on the 28th of June to await thinner summer ice. The second bid began on the 23rd of July from Pearl, with favorable satellite reconnaissance, early Corona program precursors. Submerging northbound, the Nautilus navigated the Bering's deeper eastern channel, avoiding prior hazards. En route issues arose. A periscope fogged from humidity, valves stuck in salt corrosion, and the INS required recalibration mid-voyage. Torpedoes were readied as emergency icebreakers, though never used. For 96 hours from the 1st of August, the sub threaded 1,830 nautical miles under the ice cap at depths of 300 to 500 feet, averaging 20 knots. Sonar operators monitored for polinyas, open water patches, for potential emergency ascents, while the crew endured tension with card games and movies in the mess. At 11:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the 3rd of August, 1958, position fixes confirmed 90 degrees north. Anderson's intercom announcement, "For the world, our country, and the Navy, the North Pole," sparked jubilation. Crewmen shook hands, and a symbolic North Pole sign was planted via periscope photo. Ice thickness prevented surfacing, so they pressed on. Emerging in the Atlantic northeast of Greenland on the 6th of August after traversing the Arctic Basin, Anderson radioed the coded success, "Nautilus 90 north." Eisenhower responded with congratulations, airlifting Anderson to the White House on the 8th for the Legion of Merit. The crew received the Presidential Unit Citation, a peacetime first, with ceremonies in New York. The voyage, covering 2,947 nautical miles submerged, boosted morale, validated INS for missile subs, and opened Arctic routes for commerce. Eisenhower envisioned nuclear merchant subs like the NS Savannah. Scientifically, Lyon's data advanced under ice acoustics. He later described the overhead ice as a glowing blue cathedral, serene yet unforgiving. Post-polar overhaul at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard from the 28th of May, 1959, to the 15th of August, 1960, included turbine realignments and sonar upgrades. A Mediterranean deployment with the 6th Fleet from October to December 1960 tested operations in shallow, warm waters off Spain's Rota and Malta, honing anti-submarine evasion. Assigned to Submarine Squadron 10 at New London, moored alongside the tender USS Fulton, the Nautilus evaluated emerging ASW technologies through 1961, including variable depth sonar. NATO exercises like Strike Back sharpened tactics against simulated Soviet threats. In October 1962, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it patrolled the quarantine line, monitoring Soviet Foxtrot-class subs, ready to interdict if Khrushchev escalated. A 2-month Mediterranean tour in 1963 preceded another overhaul from January 1964 to May 1966, addressing wear from over 100,000 miles. Returning, the Nautilus marked its 300,000th nautical mile on the 28th of May, 1966, with a commemorative plaque. As flagship for Commander Submarine Force Atlantic, it conducted classified ops, including ocean floor mapping for SOSUS, sound surveillance system, arrays detecting Soviet subs. On the 10th of November, 1966, during maneuvers off Rhode Island, it collided submerged with the carrier USS Essex at shallow depth. The Nautilus's sail struck the carrier's hull, causing minor damage repaired in days, with no injuries. Investigations blamed communication errors, leading to enhanced protocols. The third major overhaul from August 1967 to August 1968 at Portsmouth tackled persistent shaft vibrations limiting sonar above 4 knots, incorporating quieter pumps. Lessons applied to Los Angeles-class successors. The 1970s brought sustained service. Squeeze-play exercises in 1970 tested AN SQS-26 bow sonar against fast attack threats. A July to December 1975 Mediterranean deployment trained 6th Fleet units in the Ionian Sea, with Liberty in Naples and Gibraltar. West Indies cruises in 1976 certified advanced torpedoes and supported SEAL insertions. A 1977 Med cruise featured NATO's Dawn Patrol, with ports in Lisbon, Toulon, and La Spezia, fostering alliances amid détente. In 1978, hydrographic surveys off Bermuda logged the 500,000th nuclear mile, coinciding with the polar voyage's 20th anniversary. Anderson returned for a reunion. The final years emphasized research. acoustic trials in the tongue of the ocean, Bahamas, and environmental sampling for ocean currents. Under Captain Richard A. Riddell in 1979, the Nautilus departed Groton on the 9th of April for its swan song voyage, transiting via Guantanamo Bay and Cartagena, Colombia, to Mare Island Naval Shipyard near Vallejo, California, arriving the 26th of May, its last day underway after 513,643 nautical miles. Decommissioned on the 3rd of March, 1980, the reactor was defueled, classified systems stripped, and the hull preserved. Towed east by the submarine rescue ship USS Ortolan under Captain John Allman, it arrived Groton the 6th of July, 1985, after a ceremonial Panama transit. Opened to the public on the 11th of April, 1986, at the Submarine Force Library and Museum, it was designated a National Historic Landmark on the 20th of May, 1982, Connecticut's state ship in 1983, and added to the National Register of Historic Places on the 16th of May, 1979. A 2002 preservation effort cost $4.7 million. A major 2022 refurbishment, from March to September, invested $36 million, including hull sandblasting, anti-corrosion coatings, deck replacements, and modern LED lighting. As of the 27th of October, 2025, the Nautilus anchors the museum, open Wednesday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., May to October, closing at 4 p.m., November to April, shuttered Tuesdays. Self-guided tours via audio wands explore forward sections, the torpedo room with inert Mark 14 dummies, the attack center with periscopes and plotting tables, officers' wardroom, and crew berths evoking 1950s life. The museum, under Naval History and Heritage Command, features exhibits on submarine evolution from David Bushnell's Turtle in 1776 to Virginia-class nukes, plus the USS Nautilus VR experience for simulated dives and reactor ops. Officer in charge, Lieutenant Commander Brian C. Lucas oversees events like veteran reunions and STEM programs for schools. The Nautilus's profound influence persists. Post the 1963 USS Thresher disaster, a hull implosion during deep tests killing 129, it spurred the SubSafe program, enforcing stringent quality controls, material certifications, and escape systems that have averted nuclear sub-losses since. The S-2W design evolved into reactors for carriers like USS Enterprise, CVN-65, in 1961, and all 100-plus nuclear subs, enabling blue water dominance. Nuclear fleets have accrued billions of safe miles, powering deterrence through Polaris, Poseidon, and Trident missiles. Environmentally, Nautilus data aided climate studies on Arctic melt. Culturally, it inspired films like The Hunt for Red October, 1990, and novels like Tom Clancy's works. The story of the USS Nautilus transcends steel and uranium. It is a profoundly human tale of Rickover's unyielding vision amid institutional doubters, Wilkinson's steady hand on that fateful January day charting unknown waters, Anderson's calm leadership under the crushing polar ice where a single error could entomb the crew, Lyon's scientific foresight mapping the unseen, and the unsung sailors who endured months of isolation, forging bonds in the steel cocoon. Through engineering trials, geopolitical triumphs, and the Cold War's pervasive chill, this vessel carried more than torpedoes and instruments. It bore America's daring spirit, the relentless quest to conquer the unknown depths, and the atomic era's promise of limitless horizons. As long as we gaze upon its sleek hull in Groton, walking its decks and hearing echoes of underway on nuclear power, the Nautilus reminds us that to plunge into the deep, powered by the atom's harnessed fire, is to reach for humanity's boldest depths, connecting past innovations with future explorations in an eternal voyage beneath the waves.